Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive. Welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. I have, if you are watching on YouTube, somebody very special here. So we are interviewing Jake Van Ornum, and if you can't tell, we share the last name. We are married. Here we are. So this episode is real estate investor, how to pinpoint a good deal. So Jake and I run our real estate portfolio together. He's the negotiator. He finds the deals. He's my numbers guy. And I consider myself like the paper pusher. I do all the rent collections. I do like the general point of contact. And so that's kind of how we structured everything. But he's really good at finding us the good deals and making sure that we're not just buying to buy. So I think that in our dynamic that really works well together. And not only is he an avid real estate investor, he just started his own electrical contracting business on top of that. So we're kind of like the same where we both have a lot of things going on at the same time. We just are we don't need downtime apparently. So
Yeah,
here we
that's
are.
that's exactly how my husband Alex and I operate too. And it's funny because we kind of fall into the same roles where I'm, sort of like the general point of contact and I'm like the
Mhm.
people's person, whereas Alex is like the deal finder and the numbers guy. So yeah, thanks Jake for joining us. Super excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
I hope you know how many good things Mims says about you on here too.
Oh, I know she does. She's a big supporter of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're super excited to have you. So let's jump in and first let's talk real estate. What got you into investing?
Well, first off, I just want to take a minute and just thank both of you for having me here. I finally made the cut and I'm on the show. Uh, to be honest, it was something I had always known about, but I didn't really know about. You see, my parents owned two pretty old rougher shaped duplexes, my whole life when I was growing up. So I was constantly help them, you know, painting or trim work or emptying units out. There was a million things I was doing the whole time growing up, but it was always kind of something that it was just there. Um, I never took part in any of the profits or anything. So, but later on, Michelle and I met, and it was just like, okay, we're living with a bunch of my roommates. We're all really cool. We had our own house and everything, but at the end of the day, she doesn't want to live with three other guys, and we're ready for that next step.
Like it was
Understandable.
literally they were not in a frat house, but it felt like a frat house. And I'm just like, this is cool for right now. I was 21, so don't judge me. But if for long term, I was not willing to stay there, especially the way that the bathroom was,
Oh
let me
God.
tell you.
Yep, yep. So eventually, we decided, okay, I think it's time for us to buy a property. Or at that time, it was just me because she was just my recent girlfriend.
Yeah.
So we found a property, and it we kind of thought maybe it'd be cool to have a duplex. So long story short, we did find one. It was very scary, but we ended up buying it, and I hadn't like ran numbers on anything ever. I didn't really know. I just knew it was a good idea to be doing these investments. Um, but like as I'm living there, I started just penciling out my mortgage, taxes, insurance, and with all the rent and everything, I realized that in that moment, I'm like, wow, I'm actually profiting and owning this house and living in it for free.
hmm
So that was like that initial light bulb, like, whoa, this is cool. Like I always thought owning properties meant you paid in every month for your whole life until you finally paid that loan off, and then you took money. And then that was when I realized, well, you can actually make money right out of the gate. And that was my big aha, holy cow moment.
Yeah, I think buying your first duplex is like the scariest thing you can possibly do. And then when it starts working, it's like the most rewarding thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah, and it was funny because this is 2017 and I lowballed them almost 10 grand, and I thought there's going to be some back and forth, and they just accepted it. I was like, uh-oh.
Should I
This
have
is
gone
scary.
lower?
This is scary.
Yeah, it's like they didn't put up much of a fight and now it's actually happening and
Yeah.
holy crap.
And it was the first offer I ever made. So like it was just like, holy crap, did I just make a mistake? But everything turned out great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, being the numbers guy, how do you determine what's a good deal, what's a break-even deal, and just paying in to have the property type of deal?
You know, it all depends on the type of property. Every kind of property you look at, you're looking for different things. If it's an older property, you better make sure that it can cash flow, because with an older property, you're going to run into just a little more maintenance things. And you really got to make sure that the bones are solid. So like foundation, is the plumbing old galvanized stuff that's ready to corrode out? Is the wiring knob and tube like old stuff? Those are things you really need to pay attention to. Versus a newer property, they're great, they're amazing to live in, right? But at the same time, then you trade off some of that cash flow in most situations, so you have to come with some value add kind of play. Like we bought a nice side by side that we lived in. It was great, but we actually renovated the basement, where we added a bedroom, bathroom, had an egress window cut in, and it just kind of made sense. Sorry about the dogs, by the way.
It's all good.
But yeah, it just made more sense. And that, like, when you're buying something new, you have to have some other value play in most situations. Otherwise, it's not going to pay you every month, which in our situation in the Midwest, I think that's one of the most number one things to achieving your financial freedom. Later on down the road, if you had a whole bunch of properties, you could say, I'm going to take a gamble and hope this appreciates and not get paid in the meantime. But to start, I don't think that's the way to do it.
I know that you both are taking a break from buying your next property, as am I taking a break from buying my next property. What is it that you've told us, and I know like Mims and I have talked about this, that people are really anxious to buy a property during high interest rates and a seller's market? Can you just talk more about that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And, a lot of people in my life know that I am in real estate in some way. They don't really know whatever. Um, but you always hear from them, hey, I want to get started, but it just feels like the market isn't good right now. I can't find anything that makes any kind of sense. I don't want to pay that much, whatever. Um, if you're not ready to buy right now is the time to learn. If it's the perfect opportunity to sit down and be like, okay, what kind of property am I interested in? That's like the first thing you got to find out for yourself, and then you can go down that list like, okay, what is this kind of property selling for? Like, um, that's just where you go. And then what can you get for rent? Is there anything you can do to this kind of property to value add? So you just need to know what you're looking for, what you're interested in. And then from there, yeah, you can like kind of start almost just putting it on a list or a spreadsheet. We have our own spreadsheet that we use, but there's also free ones out there. I think Bigger Pockets has a calculator you can use. And you can just start punching in, okay, I think I get this much for rent. I think this is going to be my mortgage and taxes and insurance. And then you can see, in your interest rate, where are we with this? And you can go from there. So then when that when you are ready and you see that property come up for sale, and you've been looking for a while now, you've analyzed 100 of them in that like category, you say this one is a deal. You're confident. You might not be because it's your first one. But at least you have a good idea that it might make sense, and maybe you can ask someone who's in the game, be like, hey, what would you do with this? So that's kind of where you're at, but just educate yourself, learn where you need to be as far as what is it going to pay you every month? What do you want to make out of it? All that good stuff.
So I love that you said now with like high interest rates, now's the time to learn. And that's something that Mims and I actually talked about in a recent episode of this podcast is just, especially when you're looking at buying your first duplex, and that is so scary, or buying your first property, whatever it is. I think it is sort of like to put a positive spin on what's happening right now. It's a good opportunity to figure out like, is this something you're actually interested in? To make connections with other people in real estate, to start practicing running your numbers, even if you're not serious about buying right now. So, like you
Right.
said, when you're ready to make that decision, you feel a lot more confident. So I think that's really good advice.
Right. And I think, at the end of the day, when you're ready, you cannot be afraid to pull the trigger forever. Like if you just sit there and worry and worry and worry and never do anything, the only thing that matters in the end of the day is that you took action. If you don't take action, nothing is ever going to happen. So that's what I always tell people, like learn as much as you can, but at some point you do have to jump and you're never going to feel totally ready. You just got
Mhm.
to go for it.
Yeah, Lexi and I were just talking about this 2 episodes ago about analyst paralysis. Just like you can research all you want, but then don't be stuck in that phase. Like make reasonable goals for yourself. So if the whole thing is daunting for you, like we mentioned before, one phase of it is educate yourself, make the next month, um, finding the right bank and just like do small chunks so that it's not a huge thing to swallow all at once.
Mhm.
Okay, so as your wife, I have witnessed you have a short conversation with a person and just leaving them like absolutely stunned when introducing them to real estate investing. Can you share a snippet of that initial conversation you have with people? And I've been telling you for a long time, like, just do a podcast on that little conversation you have because I swear so many people from that initial conversation they have with you end up like doing their own research, going to buy their own duplex or whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, just send it to the masses, like just get it all out there. So what is that life-changing conversation you have?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it has to be someone who's interested or wants a change in their life or doesn't want to work until there's, 65, 70, just at a W-2 job. It has to be that kind of person who wants something different. And if you can like kind of sense that from them, you know, a lot of it is just you I don't know the best way to explain it, but you just kind of ask them like what is your dream? And like one of my favorite questions to start off is I say, what does retirement mean? Like,
Hmm.
and 9 times out of 10, they'll have some just like weird answer or they're just not sure. And I say, retirement is where your passive income supports whatever lifestyle you want to live. So what does it take for you to live that passive life? Is it $80,000 a year? Well, then you can kind of work from that. And so I just say like a simple question. I'm like, what if somebody asked you, hey, if you give me $10,000 for a one-time investment and I pay you back 7,000 for the rest of your life, would you take it? And people would say, well, yeah, I'm getting 70% of my money back every year for the rest of my life. Why would I take that? And then I say, that's exactly what a good rental property would do for you. And when everything else is pushed aside, that is what good rental properties do. So I say it's not just a way to make money, it's a way to replace your everyday earned income. Like at a certain point, you know, you get enough of those rentals and you've all now you're not working for 60 grand a year anymore. You're getting 60 grand a year from your rental income. And you didn't trade 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or deal with all that stuff. And it's funny, we'll make all that money every year from rental income, and people will say, "Isn't that a lot of work?"
Yeah.
And I always think to myself,
We
isn't going to your job every day a lot of work?
Yeah.
We answer a text message.
Yeah.
We send a plumber out there. It's really simple.
And like what Lexi and I have talked about a lot is like if you don't want to be hands-on, if like that absolutely just terrifies you of just answering a phone call, sending out a plumber, like if you don't even want to do the basic stuff, that's okay. Like there is no judgment from us and there's no judgment from anybody. You can be as passive as you want or hands off as you want. That's the beauty of this type of investing is just like you can be totally hands off, you can be hands on. It works either way.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when people are super new, like they'll say that kind of stuff like it's tough. I'm like, well, there's also property managers out there to where you don't have to do anything. And I kid you not, tons of people don't even know that that's an option. So like
Mm,
you can make it as involved as you want to squeeze every nickel out of it, or you can go way to the other extreme and just property manager everything.
hmm
Like we know someone who bought just one duplex. They lived in one half and had a property management company manage the other side.
Yeah.
So, you can really take it whatever extreme you want. So there's so much flexibility with this.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that if you are going the property management route, that you are taking that into consideration when running your numbers initially.
Yeah.
And I would suggest whether you plan to be hands-on or hands-off, run the numbers, including property management anyways, because you know, your ambition and motivation and time to like deal with all of the tenants and the building and everything might dwindle over time. So just having that as a backup plan, knowing that you're still going to cash flow is a really good idea.
Absolutely. And then, another little quick point is um, if the numbers are kind of tight and it doesn't totally make sense to do property management and you only are buying one, it's not that crazy to manage it yourself. And then over time, rents will grow.
Hmm.
So eventually it would make sense, your cash flow every month would grow in the most ideal situation. So at that point, then you really could let the property manager take care of everything, and you're still getting a good monthly residual check.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the answers to this question that you've had because I know that how myself and my husband Alex got started on our real estate journey was largely because of the conversation that he had with you. And I just
Hmm.
think it's awesome that you're just like this salesperson for bettering yourself and bettering your future and just setting up for people, setting up for success, and helping other people do that.
I love
Right.
that. I love that you said that.
Yeah. I'm just passionate because I was that W-2 worker. I didn't have a direction on where I was going to be going. And then we stumbled into this and it changed our lives. Like no
Yeah.
joke, changed our lives, changed our opportunities. It opened so many doors. And it's like, who would I be if I didn't at least open that door for someone that was just like me?
Mm,
And
Hmm.
that's what it is. And like if I see that little glint in someone's eye, I at least want to share this with them and then they can
Hmm.
make their own decisions from there. But I know I've helped a lot of people and I've helped a lot of friends
hmm
change their lives and it's just been really satisfying seeing the people who I care about succeed.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's the whole point of like this podcast too, is like we don't gatekeep. And I know that that's like kind of what you're trying to say right now too, is like no gatekeeping. Like if I know that this has bettered my life, why wouldn't I want to share this with other people and like give you all the tools you could use to better yourself to live a better life and you do what you want with that. But at least I know that I gave you what I know, because I mean, there was somebody in your life that did that for you.
Mhm.
So what is a common mistake you've seen when someone has purchased a rental property?
It's so simple. It's people want to buy their dream home or a really expensive like duplex, like a brand new side by side duplex, and they didn't run the numbers. They just wanted to live in a really nice spot, and but they still wanted to get the duplex to have someone else help them. Um, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Like, say you make a good living at your W-2 job and you just want some future potential, maybe that's something you could do. But for people like us who want to get out of that rat race, it's you have to run the numbers. And at the end of the day, when you're not living in that property anymore, really you want to get paid every month to profit. Because I can tell you, after years of owning properties and operating them, I can't imagine I would be any kind of interested if I was paying in every month or making nothing. Um, you know, or if your whole goal is buying this property and it's not going to pay you, but you say, hey, the value's going to go up, value's going to go up. Well, that's gambling. That's not investing. Um, you don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, if you got a 30-year horizon, I think you're pretty safe no matter what you do, as long as you're okay paying in every month. Just know you might pay in the entire time you own that property. I guess you could do it. Like if you're on the coast, like if you're in Florida or California or even like Arizona, New York, those places you're not going to find cash flow very easily at all. All those people, they're kind of hoping and praying that values go up. And really that's not the life-changing thing for people like us. For us, it's the cash flow to start not needing your W-2 job anymore. So for me, the biggest issue is just buying that dream home, buying that nice kitchen because you love it, not you're not looking at the numbers. That's
Mhm.
that's the big mistake.
Yeah, I think that in the beginning for us, we did a lot of like sacrificing. So
Mhm.
like we house hacked and not a lot of people house hack. So that was like a sacrifice in itself. And then we chose to be in the one bedroom upper instead of the three bedroom lower. And we've always done that. We've always done uh the smaller unit versus the bigger one if it made more sense. I mean, we didn't do it one time because there was already a tenant in the smaller one, but typically that's what we did,
Mhm.
or like the more run down one or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, just because we knew that in the long run we would benefit more from that than just having the nice area with the really awesome benefits from the larger space or the bigger kitchen or whatever the case may be. So in the beginning for us, and I think it's kind of something that you should nail down for yourself, is like sacrifice is kind of the name of the game in the beginning. And then after that, you start to reap. And what our mindset is, it's for retirement, it's not for right now. So we don't get bogged down with, okay, well, this other friend has like a beautiful house that is just for them. And like, we don't think about that right now because this isn't for us right now. This is for us later on.
Mhm.
But it does help us right now
It does help
a
us.
lot
Yes.
because we
Yeah.
do generate a healthy return, and that we choose to reinvest it, but the money's there. So if we want to do something for ourselves, we can. We just choose to reinvest.
Yeah. I mean, just saying, starting out, the way that we chose to go about it was not to benefit us
Yeah.
personally. Um, Financially, that was our path.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same strategy that I follow. And I think it's also just a good lesson in like being happy with where you're at and accepting that, it might be a sacrifice right now, but it can still be fun. And if you're like really living in a place that's kind of a disaster, it's a good opportunity to like fix it up yourself and make it something beautiful that you're proud of and
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
like
you add
accumulate.
value.
Yeah, I was gonna say
there's a
maybe
lot
like
of great
accumulate some
things.
funny stories along the way too.
Let's move on to your new founded electrical contracting business because I want to plug that too. What prompted you to start Modern Day Electric LLC?
It's kind of a combination of everything we've been talking about. Over the last 6 or 7 years, we've been investing in properties and just, you know, it's a lot of effort and energy working for somebody. And you don't have that kind of freedom that you always wanted. And so over these years, we've been buying these properties and the cash flow has been building up and building up and building up. And then you get to a certain point, like a certain day, and you look at it and you're like, I'm literally making as much from my rental income as from this job where I spend 40 to 50 hours a week. And, I will be there at 6. I will be there at 5. I will drive an hour. When you start doing that every day and you're like, why am I doing this? That was like the question that kept popping up. Why am I doing this when I don't need this anymore? I
Mm-hmm.
could go out on my own and get my own freedom back. So, I mean, that was it. Once our passive income kind of hit what I was making,
Mm.
I knew I'm like, I don't have the drive to do this anymore. I want to go out on my own and start my own business relationships. And, with the electrical business, it's a perfect segue when I go to these real estate investor networking events. I go wearing my electrical outfit, but I'm there as a real estate investor. And a lot of times I'm the only electrician there. So I'm making tons of really great connections with these investors. And I've gotten tons of work from that. And then I'm building good relationships, or down the road, I know these investors. And if they ever wanted to sell or they come into a deal where they need partnerships on, that it's an option. So it's a perfect hand-in-hand business with what I'm really passionate about, the real estate, with what I can do as a tradesman, as an electrician. So it just made
Yeah,
total sense to go out on my own.
that's really smart. Yeah. So for our listeners, can you just briefly explain what a contracting business is?
Yeah, it's just like any trade. Um, as an electrical contractor, we're able to pull permits. We do everything to code. We're insured. So basically, you just know you're doing the job right. I'm not just a handyman. I'm an actual electrical contractor. So that's pretty much the difference. It's where I'm able to pull permits. I'm insured for the work. Um, and that's pretty much just peace of mind for someone that they know they're getting it done right. And in a lot of cases, you need a contractor. You can't do the work yourself on an investment property if you're swapping a panel out. So there's a lot of reasons, why it's a little different than just like a handyman business.
Mhm.
And from our previous episode of finding clients, I think that next question kind of goes into it. So how do you set yourself apart in an area from other electrical businesses as like yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think one of the big differences is I go to a lot of these real estate networking meetups. So I'm meeting a ton of people who are in the same game as me who need electrical help. So that's one big thing that I know I can provide support to these people who really are just kind of going off who their neighbor found or whatever. So I am there meeting people that way. And another big way is I not really partnered up, but I've partnered up with like a lighting supplier in the area and a commercial property manager, to where if they need help with something, they call me. I'm not hunting out the individual jobs. I'm hunting down the people who have a constant workflow. Instead of me chasing the guy who needs the lights put in his house, I got in touch with the lighting suppliers who get tons of requests for electrical work, but they don't do that. They just do electrical lighting. So that's kind of how I'm a little different. I'm trying to focus on finding the funnel, not just the individual deals.
Yeah, thinking bigger picture. I like that.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to people who are drained from working for a large company or just working a regular 9 to 5 and may want to pursue their own business?
Well, the first thing is I'd make sure you got some money saved up if you want to get out of that. And then if you're the kind of person like us three here, I would say get into real estate in some way, learn, get educated. Because if you just keep showing up for work every day and don't do anything, I mean, that will be your reality. There's no way out of that. And the real estate is a great way to help get that income coming every month, even when you are just starting out and you don't have a ton of work. So the real estate was like kind of the safety net to where if I had a hard time, at least I have this income. Like so I'm fine no matter what because I had replaced my earned income with the rental property stuff. Um, but besides that, if you don't want to go in the rental business, you don't want to go through that, I would say just make sure you have a lot of money saved up, you've done your research, and you found some way to get in front of the funnel, which is what, a way to bring business in, not hunting down these individual deals. You need to find the people who just are having stuff thrown at them all the time.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So, lastly, where do you envision yourself in the future when it comes to both of your businesses, real estate and being an electrician?
Yeah, I would say, the real estate vision is I still really want to find a apartment or two or three, just kind of see where that goes. I know the real money is in the larger apartments when you get over 10, 12. Like a 20 unit would be ideal for us to start. Um, there's a lot of benefits to buying a bigger property than just a duplex. There's so much to it that we'd bog this thing down, but that is where my real interests lie. I know that there's great money to be made with that, and if you find one good deal, tens of thousands of dollars every year in profit. So that's really where I want this business to go. And the electrical business is I'm not 100% sure on how big I want it to get. Like, do I want a bunch of employees? Do I want to buy a shop or build a shop and have that overhead? Or do I just keep doing it on my own or having a couple guys help me here and there, So, but I know I want the electrical business to be the fuel for my real estate business. It's a great talking point with a lot of investors and homeowners. And I know it's just going to bring me opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have. So, really, the electrical business is to fuel my real estate business, which is my real passion. And eventually, just eventually, I probably won't do the electrical anymore if we get a couple apartments, because the apartments is the goal to totally replace any daily job that we do.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the real vision.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being available for our podcast. I officially release you from your supportive husband duties. I will have Modern Day Electric LLC's information in our show notes so that if you are in the Fox Valley area and are in need of a reliable, I'm gonna bold, underline reliable because he is really good at getting back to you literally in within the same hour if he's not currently on a job that same day at the very least. He's really responsive and he opens a really good line of communication. And he's really professional too. Um, so you'll know who to call once I have all of his information in our show notes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, I gotta plug you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jake, for taking some time and talking about both your journeys and being a business owner in real estate and in other, real estate adjacent categories. It was
Right.
really fun to just sort of hear about your process and hear about your goals, and it's definitely inspiring, and it's making me want to go buy another property ASAP.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure coming on today. And, I was a little nervous at first, but I know that we're gonna have fun. So that all kind of went away immediately. So
Yeah, just like talking with your friends.
I'm glad we finally did this and, made it happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So make sure to tune in for next week's episode, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
All right. Thanks again, Jake. And to our listeners, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.